national champion or represent the country in the Olympics, but we wanted to keep that passion going, and so that it is inculcated down the line to the young generation. Hard work and pounding. I don't want to be repetitive. All of us know about Mirabai, Mary Kom, under what background they have come from. Lovelina Borgohain, below poverty line. But that zeal was there, which we have seen from the affluent class or those who are comfortably placed, they are complacent. We are seeing in the national scenario today how even in cricket, who would have thought that in a place state like Jharkhand will throw up someone like Dhoni. Similarly, in Manipur or in other states also, you should look at Deepika, her background. So this determination we need to drive and cultivate on this. Coming to the management aspect and realizing the dreams of our budding talent and the youth, I think we still don't have an action plan in our country. Today we have seen with lot of hopes, dreams, aspirations. I would rather call it aspirations. The athletes had given their best, but we had seen the ups and downs. That is part of the sports. But how much were they equipped to face this Olympics? For me, Olympics is sublime and the biggest event, not only in sports, in any event of the world, be it political, be it cultural, be it from any other sphere of life, it is sublime. And to represent the nation, there is that pride which is there. But what is happening? We are using our resources, spreading it too thin. We may have 1,000 aspirants. Out of that, only 5 may come up. That doesn't mean that other 995 are rejected. They also need to be groomed. But how are we tackling those 5? Our funds, our resources needs to be utilized in a proper manner. We are sending our athletes all over the world for training, but is it happening on a sustained basis? No. So here I feel I will end here because there are many lot speakers. So our dreams and reality, we need to narrow that schism and the narrow that divide which is there between the dream and the reality. And one part which I feel that sports somehow should be taken out of government control if these dreams are to be translated into reality. And how we do that? I'll appeal to my fellow panelists that I have drawn up a plan with my study in Manipur. You will be astounded to know that over 32,000 crores in CSR money is being collected by the government. What I suggest here, although this may not be a proper platform, but I may not have the opportunity to interact with all these luminaries here, I will get in touch with all of you. I am devising a plan where 25 or 30% of this money collected through the CSR activities of the private entities, a corpus should be formed where there will be no government or bureaucratic environment, but people like Kamlesh, people like Anju, all those people form the board of this. And this is how the State Olympic Association and the National Olympics Association be funded, and they draw up an action plan, the talent hunt, because now what is happening, these are all individuals' interventions at the state level. And Manipur, again, I come back, astounding, but this is not happening. Manipur always cannot bear the flag of our country. It needs to spread out as a movement. We have the talent. You see a population of 76,000 in triathlon, gets a gold medal, why not we? So I think we all need to put our head together. And finally, people always say that, oh, cricket has got a lot of money. They have got my Ranji Trophy player. Yes, he gets 20 lakhs a year for playing for 3 months. But that also has not come easy. Government has given like 500 rupees. So how do we broad, how we bid? It has to be an amalgamation of the commercial and how we involve and market. People feel bad. They're scandalized when we use the term marketing for sports. But our players need to be sustained and they need to be given a good source of income so that they are not worried today how things come back. It is fine when someone wins a gold, you give crores of rupees. But that journey from the grassroots to attaining that dream is a journey of commitment, dedication, sacrifice, and determination. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. That's indeed insightful. Moving things along, I would now like to invite Mr. John F. Kharshi, who is a mainstay in the regional sports scene. He is the working president of the Meghalaya State Olympic Association, playing a pivotal role in promoting the sportsmanship spirit here. He's also the president of the Shooting Association of Meghalaya, a former vice president of the Boxing Federation of India, a politician and a juggernaut social worker, and if I may say, a torch bearer for the tradition of Khasi society, in many ways both official and unofficial, especially through his involvement as the chief of Grand Councils of Village. I'd like to invite Mr. Kharshi to kindly speak on Olympics and the Northeast.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to Rotary Orchid City Shillong for giving me this opportunity to say a few words on this day, and I will just share a few of our initiatives and our aspirations. So it is no hidden secret that the Northeast has tremendous potential, which has not yet been fully tapped. And so, uh, having been in sports myself, in taekwondo, in table tennis, in school at a very amateur stage, and then getting on to become an administrator at the village level of the Limakra Sports Club, and then managing a number of sports associations. We find one thing that what is happening now is, as my esteemed panelists earlier had mentioned, we are just necessity, the priority to have a physical education teacher in the schools. So these are a few things that, initiatives that were being set in place. Unfortunately for the COVID, we are all here on Zoom. So with these few words, I once again thank everyone for hearing us out. We would like to say a lot, but other panelists are there and we'd like to hear them also. Thank you very much for this. And I'll welcome any other questions if, in case we have a general session, in case there are questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. There's indeed quite a lot more to delve into in depth, and it looks like it's quite a lot of room for optimism there. Thank you so much. I'd just like to request our speakers to kindly adhere to the time and the time constraints as well, because we have a long list of speakers. Thank you for that. Moving things along, we have next Mr. Sanjeeva Kumar Singh. Mr. Singh has had a long and illustrious career, which is still going. He has been a great ambassador for the country as a player and is now a great ambassador for the sport of archery itself. Among others, he is the 1994 Arjuna Award winner, the 1996 Shresth Khel Samman, 2007 Bisra Munda Award, 2007 Dronacharya Award, 2009 Rashtriya Prohatsan Puraskar, 2011 Jharkhand Ratna, and most recently the 2020 Shiv Gaurav Puraskar. I would like to invite Mr. Singh to kindly speak on the pitfalls of achieving the Olympic dreams and what to do. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I think so all the illustrious sports people are there, so I don't want to say that many of the things which I'm going to talk about is already, they know everything, so it's nothing new. But just I wanted to talk to you in three aspects, basically. The first I'll say as a player, when we dream about the Olympics, the first thing which comes to mind is, are we dreaming? So as a sports person, I think Kamlesh, Sanju, everybody was there, and we all, Max was there, and we all know that we have to dream, because finally the dreams have to turn into a reality. But what happens is, when we are dreaming, the second question which comes out is, are we actioning the dream? So dreaming is one part, that yes, we want to become an Olympic medalist, we want to win a medal, we want to do very well, we want to become the world champion, but then action with vision, as Joel Barker said, can actually make it happen. The second principle, which is very, very important for turning the dreams into reality, is action with vision, where sometimes we fail. We are working on one part of the training, for example, to win an Olympic medal. What is important is that are we working on all the aspects? That means the technical part, the mental part, the physical part. So sometimes we work on the physical part, we forget the technical. If we're working on the technical, we forget the mental. But at the Olympics, it is all about mind. It's all about how you are psychologically preparing yourself to win. So as you saw, many times when we are fighting with the Koreans, while we were shooting 56, 57, but they were shooting 58, 59. The difference is, are you trying to focus on your performance? As when you heard because many of the top Olympic medalists, many of the sports legion, when you talk to them, the one thing which they always say is that the focus has to be on the performance. And that is one pitfall which also is there. One, are we actually, when we go there, the pressure of the government, the pressure of the people, the pressure of the media, so the expectations rise so much during an Olympic, that while at the same time, Deepika will be winning a World Cup gold medal, but the moment we come to the Asian Games, come to the Commonwealth Games, come to the Olympic Games, the three games which are creating a hype because the entire country is looking at it, that is where we start feeling, because the expectations keep rising. The media keeps on building the expectation, and we start fighting with an imaginary goal in our mind that, okay, I want to win a medal. So you cannot fight with a magic goal. It is very, very important that are you rooted out. So generally, if you look at all the top Olympians, they are very rooted to the ground. And if you're rooted to the ground, that means rooted to the fundamentals. That is the time only you can create world records, or you can. So one thing which becomes very, very important there is, are you learning? Just like you must have heard in the movie, people have said that it's entertainment. Similarly, in a sports, it's learning. When you learn, that is the time you take risk. Learning doesn't mean that I don't take a technique. Suppose I'm doing something in a particular way, If I have to enhance my performance, I need to change my technique. So that can only happen first. Have you gone into the detailing of that? And after the detailing, are you willing to take the risk on the field? Because many times we come back to our old self. While you're training technique, but you feel, oh, maybe I'm not getting comfortable, and you come back to your old technique. If you keep on coming back to your old technique, you'll never improve. So that improvement journey is all about how are you learning, how are you taking the risk, how are you challenging yourself, and then moving forward. So this is another pitfall which keeps on coming, that many times we come back to a comfort zone. On the contrary, you have to get out of your comfort zone. So Olympians who win medals are people who get out of the comfort zone, who learn, who take the risk and move ahead. The other thing is that many times we fail. Failure is a part of becoming successful. But are you taking the failure in a stride? Because if you don't take the failure in a stride, then you'll never achieve the next goal. So it's important that while you are building your goals, your incremental goals, but it's important that we realize that we are bound to fail. But what is important is, like Michael Jordan has said, you always rise up every time. Or what Serena Williams said, every time you fall down, you rise up. That is the ability of a Olympian, ability of that you have to keep on rising up every time you're falling down. The other thing is that it's very important that as you rise in your sporting career, as you become from a state to a national to a international to a world to a Olympic, what is important is, are you able to take the criticism in your stride? Many times one of the pitfalls is that we are not able to take criticism. We get very much agitated the moment anybody criticizes. On the contrary, if you look at Michael Phelps, if you look at what he says that I always take the criticism in my stride. That is what makes the champions different. You have to take it in your stride. And that is the beauty about, winning the Olympic medal. You will face problems, you will face criticism, but then are you able to take it in your stride? And finally, as a sports person, what I feel is that the 3 C's and the 3 D's become very, very important. That is courage, conviction, and commitment. And the 3 D's, which are discipline, dedication, and devotion. So these 3 are very, very important for a person, along with the strong willpower. If you are able to combine the 3 C's, the 3 D's, and the strong willpower, I'm sure that all of us, while we have not been able to win the Olympic medal, but what we are trying is that how we can help the nation win Olympic medal. But that is possible if we work on these 9 things, keep it in our mind when it comes. Now, that was as a player. Now, coming to as a coach, if you look at, you have to develop an ecosystem. If you want the country to win a medal, and if you look at all the top playing countries, whether it's Korea, whether it's US, whether it's China, whether it's New Zealand, Australia, UK, all of them have one thing very important, is that they develop the ecosystem. Ecosystem doesn't mean in India generally it's coach player. No, ecosystem is not coach and player. Ecosystem is coach, player, and the entire sports science team, along with the administration. So if you are training at a national center, it's not only the ecosystem, which is your sports science team, the coach and all, but also along with the administration, because they also have to fall in line. Otherwise, you may want an equipment, but by the time the new equipment comes 6 months late and you are not even trained for the next world championship, or you want to change it, and it cannot happen. So important is, are we building an ecosystem? So as a coach, you need to ensure that you are not the only person. You're only one cog in the wheel, but you will have a nutritionist, you will have a physiologist, you have an anthropometrist, you will have a psychologist working with you, you have a strength and conditioning trainer working with you. So you have the mental trainer working with you. Are you creating that ecosystem to win an Olympic medal? If you cannot create a coach and a player, and very rare cases it happens that they can build a system to create an Olympic. The other very important is that, are we taking advanced training? As a coach, it's important that while your players are learning, but in order to provide the inputs, it is important that you continuously innovate yourself. The innovation can only come if you keep learning. So coaches also have to do advanced coaching. They also need to understand sports science. They also need to improve their base, the knowledge base. So that is happening or not. So whether they are moving from level 1 system to level 2 to level 3, which is there in all the today in every game at the world level, it is there. So that is important. Focus on sports science. If we look at archery today, you see that heartbeat are being shown. People are now looking, they want media that every game is trying to create excitement because they want more and more viewership. If they don't have viewership, the game can be out of the Olympics. So what they want is they want to change the system. They want to bring about tweaking the system all the time so that it becomes more interesting, more viewership. So they're trying to show the heart rate. So are you actually at the edge of the technology? So many of us who may have learned NIS 10 years back, 20 years back, many of us who may have left our old sports field and then became coaches, it is important that are we trying to learn? You have to learn. Today, a coach has to be digital. You cannot think that I'm not digital. Somebody else will teach me how to run an Excel, how to create a PowerPoint, how to create a presentation, how do I present to my player. So today you got to be digital, you got to be completely in control of, because that is where the world is moving. So if you are not moving with the world, you cannot produce Olympic medals. So that's very, very important as a coach you need to work on. Obviously, this also takes into account the relationship building, because today generally what happens was coach used to only work on performance. Today it's not only performance, it's wellness. If you don't take care of the wellness of the athlete, you'll never be able to take it forward. So you have to focus on the wellness. So that is what is known as sustainability. So if you in a parlance of a corporate world, we call it sustainability. That sustainability of your players will only happen over a period of time of 1 Olympic, 2 Olympic, 3 medal, if you are actually taking care of the wellness. It's not about, and the wellness doesn't mean only the health. The wellness also means in their job. So you got to take care of that too. So it's not only about teaching or giving technique in the field. Off the field, are you taking care of the wellness part, right from their sleeping habits to their all the other things? So you need to take care of that. So along with that, you need to take care of their progression also. So that is actually going to be the real coach who is actually able to do all of that. Now coming as a management, if you look at, because we have set up academies, the Tata Academy set up, so many other academies have set up. So what is one thing which is very, very important in the ecosystem is that when we look from the management perspective, academies are very important, because India, you cannot depend totally on the government. You have to create academies, and academies have to be there in every state. Then only more and more regimented players will come. Because if you want to create a system of grid, because that is where the talents can be developed only in academies or the National Center of Excellence. So just like the IITs, you have the regional engineering colleges, you have the schools. So just take the education pipeline, how well it is in India. Very well entrenched, as a result of which we are producing world-class people who are now the CEOs of the top countries of the USA. How are they? Because they have undergone that 12 plus 2 plus 3, and thereafter they go to the PhD, and thereafter they go to the engineering, MBA. So such a very good system of education we have. Similarly, you have to create that system of talent pipeline in the country when we are looking out from the grassroots, which is whether it's the Khelo India scheme, whether it's the the field centers in the various you can create system and process. If you don't have system and process in an academy, it will not happen. In the Tata Arts Academy, we created system and process. So even if I'm not there, the system is running. That is what leadership is all about. Leadership is not about just creating. It is about creating a system which runs on its own while you are not there, when you are not looking into. You also, very, very important part of the management is that from the administrative perspective is that are you weeding out non-performing? Non-performance doesn't mean only players. It also means coaches. It also means your support system. It also means your ecosystem. Anybody who is a non-performer cannot be in that in the Olympic League. So if you are having that Olympic ecosystem, are you having people who are performers, or are you having people who are non-performers also tagging along? You cannot. In a corporate world, we don't allow. If you want perfection, you have to ensure that you only have performers in your team. And that is very, very important to learn, that many times because of the system or because of being goody-goody, we can keep on, but then that's the thing where we keep on failing. Infrastructure becomes very, very important, and we have to create world-class infrastructure along with. And world-class infrastructure doesn't mean just the play field. It also means a 2-star accommodation. So it's the accommodation has to go along, because that is where the sleeping off the field routine comes in. So whether it's the sports science center, whether it's the gymnasium, whether it's a dining hall, whether it's a room, everything has to be 2 to 3 stars. So if you look at developing Olympic medalists, then you have to create that infrastructure where they feel comfortable. They're at ease with themselves, so that when they go abroad, when you talk about accreditation, there's nothing as accreditation because there's already accredited. They know how to stay in a 4-star hotel. It's not that there's something for the first time they're going into a 4-star hotel or a 3-star hotel, or they're going to a world-class field. Your infrastructure itself has to be world-class. So they feel that there's no difference as they move from one competition to the other competition. And that is where one of the biggest dilemma which comes in is the competition. We have to create competition. And creating competition doesn't mean that you need to go to a world championship. You can create competition within your ecosystem. You can create competition within the NSUIs, within the various academies, within this thing. So what we cannot be dependent totally on the government that can be only one national championship. Just like Kamlesh has started his own, league, he has started. So we need people like him to take forward and take different leagues should be created in every game, so that more and more competition are there where you can decide which competition to participate, which could not participate. If I think so, as a management, as a coach, and as a player, if you're able to do, so I think so, whatever I could from my own journey and through my own learnings in life, I try to just talk about some of the things which I feel, if done properly, can the 135 crore Indian, their dreams will start turning into reality, and we may have more medals, if not in 21, at least in 24, it will be a double-digit figure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was wonderfully actionable and practical thoughts. You've laid out a holistic course of action and a course of constantly evaluating the action, the sustainability perspective as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So kind of you.
So next up, we are supposed to be hearing from Madam Anju George. Just want to confirm, is she still online? Madam, are you still online? She seems to have dropped out. Is it?
Okay, I don't see her.
So maybe hopefully she can join us again, and then we'll just place her wherever we can in the course of events. So moving on then, I'd next like to invite Mr. Ian Campbell, the renowned Olympian, joining us all the way from Australia. The time there now is just past 11 p.m. So an extra special thank you, sir, for making yourself available. So Mr. Campbell represented the Australian team in the long jump and triple jump events. He was a silver medalist at the 1978 Commonwealth Games and a bronze medalist in the 1979 IAAF World Cup. He also represented his country in the 1980 Summer Olympics in Moscow, USSR, finishing in 5th place in the men's triple jump event, although it is widely regarded to have been rightfully the gold medalist there. Mr. Campbell has over 35 years of experience in international business, serving in senior positions with both Nike and NBA in sales, marketing, sponsorship, licensing, and brand development. He's currently the CEO and chairman of PrimeCo Private Limited, now ARMS PT, a global diversified sports business operating in Australia, Asia, India, and Europe. So once again, thank you for joining us all the way from Australia. Could you please address the topic of improving India's Olympic medal tally and how you would suggest that we improve our performances from a global perspective, let's say? Thank you.
Thank you, and it's actually 11:25 p.m., but that's what being an Olympian is all about. So no excuse for the time. So very honored to be here, and thank you to Rotary for the invitation. And incidentally, Rotary, my local Rotary club sponsored me when I was a junior athlete. So there's some food for thought there, I think. And also to President John Carshing and the Meghalaya State Olympic Association. It's greatly appreciated. I'm very pleased to be here this evening to talk to you all. I will try and be brief and keep my comments fairly simple, but I think it obviously very relevant during the Olympic Games to have this discussion. Firstly, you all are well aware of Australia's rich sporting history, and as I think today, Australia sat in 4th place in the Olympic medal tally. So the first question not to be answered tonight is, how can a country of 25 million people be 4th currently in the medal tally in the Olympic Games? It doesn't make sense. Why is that possible? A number of reasons. And the number one reason that some of you have touched on tonight is the overwhelmingly powerful culture of sport in Australia. It is overwhelming. It is everywhere in our daily life. And sport is held at the highest, in the highest esteem by Australian society, period. This is a very critical issue moving forward for India, I believe. And with that comes, for developing athletes, when they become into a pathway situation, regardless of sport, that we have very, very strong family support of those athletes. And that's also obviously another cultural issue. And to John's previous comments about and other speakers about an ecosystem. The ecosystem in Australia was put together formally after the Moscow Olympics, ironically, with the formation of the Australian Institute of Sport, because for the previous two Olympics, Australia had performed very poorly in a number of sports. And the decision was made as that had to be reversed because of the importance of sport in our culture and daily lives. And the Australian Institute of Sport was formed. It became a global benchmark of excellence and how to develop athletes in terms of the total ecosystem: sport science, nutrition, wellness, physical training, obviously, world-class coaches, education, research, and so on and so forth. But as we approached the 2000s, it began to suffer, stagnate. Why? Because we had a new breed of athlete and a brave new world, millennials, who simply refused to move from a beach in the Gold Coast to the cold winters of Canberra. The most notable of that was in partnership with all the other Olympic sports to provide for athletes across all the different variations and their needs, particularly in terms of finance, medical, sports science, and so on and so forth. So it's not easy, by the way, but they have been able to develop those in a manner that works. And so they were able to save the Sports Institute system by decentralizing it. So in terms of India, I would say the development of sports institutes in each state is critical, because the other issue being large populations. So some states, Maharashtra, for instance, with 100 million people, one institute probably isn't going to do it. So there'll have to be maybe multiple institutes by key sports or what have you. So those internal logistical issues will need to be addressed. In Meghalaya, one sports institute will suffice across the multitude of sports. So the other issue is the talent ID. So the structure in Australia, even when I was 10 years old, the talent ID program existed, and when people in a multitude of sports performed at a high level, and I was identified at 10 years of age. So you could be a football player, a hockey player, a swimmer in particular, gymnast, doesn't matter. Then you are immediately identified to your sport, a local athletics club in my case, that had coaches and so on and so forth, and infrastructure at a very early age. That continues today. Now, for instance, in Gymnastics Australia, if you were not in an elite pathway program by the age of 8 years of age, you will not probably not make it in that sport. I think the other element to the Australian sports system is it is brutally ruthless. Every year, the athletes that receive financial consideration from the national or the state institute of sport must meet a certain level of performance criteria. If that criteria is not met, they receive no funding. This is an important stage of development. India probably isn't at that level yet. They need to take and support athletes for some time until the broader athlete population is far more mature. That's the situation in Australia. It's cutthroat. And so you combine that with these other factors. So when people go to an Olympic Games, they've been used to competing and training under some pressure to perform, to maintain their position in an institute of sport, and also being afforded the ability to go to international events from a very young age to gain that experience throughout their career. We've talked about Indian athletes going overseas and so on and so forth. That's fantastic and needs to be done ongoing. But the key issue is taking those 8, 10 and above year old talents and making sure they go into the appropriate sport for them and the sport they love. Give you an example, 2 examples, particularly with our friends from the BCCI. You probably know Mitchell Johnson, a very aggressive left-hand fast bowler from Australia. Mitchell Johnson, up until the age of 17, was also in the Australian Elite Junior Javelin training squad. He did 2 sports. He chose cricket in the end, which was probably a good decision for him on a number of levels. The other thing was Jeff Thompson, the legendary fast bowler from Australia, was in fact the national junior javelin record holder. So these kinds of transitional opportunities between sports also need to be considered, i.e. we find a fantastic, which we found in Meghalaya, incredibly gifted athletes. Could those athletes be 100-meter runners? Could they be long jumpers? Maybe. But they also may be the world's fastest hockey player. So those considerations need to be taken into account as well. As part of the coach education system and infrastructure, the sports infrastructure and maturity, and also working with the athlete about what they want to achieve and what they believe they want to do and how they want to do it. So very, very important. Communication is critical. And I think that one of the things that is a challenge in a lot of countries, and I've worked in China and Korea and Japan and other countries over the last 40 years. I remember vividly PT Usha, which I'm sure you all know. Where is the next PT Usha? So these are critical issues. And I know from my involvement some years ago with the Athletics Federation of India that John is well aware of, there's a lot of world-class talent in India, even in track and field. So we also know from even the testing we've done that there is enormous talent in India, not enormous physical talent. 1.3 billion people, sheer weight of numbers will tell you there's enormous talent. It's the convergence of finding that talent and taking that talent and putting them in the correct ecosystem and the correct pathway. And over time, you will produce Olympic medalists, assuming, of course, that those athletes are absolutely not 100% committed. 100% commitment doesn't do it. It has to be more than that. And I know that occurs now with many athletes in India, but certainly in my country, some would say in cricket and a few other sports, we commit over 100%. But I can guarantee you that is ingrained in every athlete, regardless of sport in this country, that you must produce more than 100%, not at the Olympic Games, every single day you train. That is the expectation. So along with the infrastructure, the development, the talent ID, the state academies of sport, and so on and so forth, The other elements are there also is an expectation on the athletes. If you commit to this life and this pathway, you will give more than 100% as part of your development. On a personal level, I believe that India is probably the great untapped sporting nation on earth by a considerable margin. So the opportunity for your country in the coming decades is quite astounding. If you can get the infrastructure right and the talent pathways right, you could dominate world sport.
Okay, so thank you so much. I mean, you've given us a lot to consider there. Your phrase importance of sports in our culture and the juxtaposition between the ruthlessness, but also that love for the sport. It's pretty, thank you so much for that. So I think next we have Mr. Kamlesh Mehta, who will be speaking to us. So Mr. Kamlesh Mehta was a captain of the Indian team from 1982 to 1989. He was the highest ranked Indian player in Asia, the Commonwealth, and the world. He's been a national 8-time champion, which speaks to his consistency in maintaining a dominant presence over a long career. Mr. Mehta represented India in 7 World Championships, 8 Asian Championships, 2 Asian Games, 4 South Asian Federation Games, 2 Olympic Games. A highlight was his performance in the SAF Games in 1991 at Colombo, where he won 7 gold medals and 4 silver medals. So during a nearly 20-year career, Mr. Mehta has received numerous recognitions, such as the Shiv Chhatrapati Award in 1979, the Arjuna Award in 1985. He is presently the director of the Ultimate Table Tennis League. I would like to invite Mr. Mehta to kindly speak upon the subject Olympics then and now.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, first and foremost, thank you to Rotary Club of Shillong and Meghalaya State Olympic Association and my dear friend Chiranjeev Chaudhary to consider me fit enough to come on this panel. And thanks to all the speakers who spoke before me. It was a lot of good learning for me. Thank you for that. So today I need to speak about Olympic then and now. I was fortunate to have represented the country in the Olympics. So I, as a player, represented in 1988, that was the Seoul Olympics, and 1992 Barcelona Olympics as a player, and 2004 Athens Olympics as a coach. So I will speak about certain things which are important, and I'll speak about tennis and my experience of playing Olympics then and what are the things that are changed now in Olympics. Of course, I would not go into all the statistics of how many teams participated, what are the parts where, how many athletes part that can be easily available on the Google, etc. So regarding table tennis, it was 1988 was the first time that table tennis was introduced to Olympics. And when I went for the Olympics, even for the trials, I was not even aware of the magnitude of Olympics. We had heard and read about Olympics only in newspaper. When I got qualified and went for the Olympics, there was hardly any planning. We just had one camp, and then we went for the Olympics, and that is where it was. Then the second Olympics, the planning improved. There was some better planning. We were sent for training in China for 2 weeks, and from there directly we went there. Whereas if you go to see now, there's huge change for better, I would say, for the Indians. Earlier, there was hardly any awareness. Now awareness is wide. Support is much better. The involvement of government, involvement of the administrative federations, etc. are very high. Like I have been into 3 Olympics, but I don't recollect. I have never had an opportunity to interact with the Prime Minister, the highest person of the country. This time, the Prime Minister took out time and he was aware of each and every athlete's performance. And he was wishing them well. Well, the head of the country, when he takes this kind of interest, it's a fantastic motivation and inspiration. So I must say, I was very happy listening to that interaction. Forget about the Prime Minister. I not had the opportunity even to meet my state chief minister, but I'm very happy to see that now all the state governments are also involved and are taking part in encouraging the players who have qualified for Olympics. This might look like a criticism, but no. But since my topic is a comparison, it is a comparison. I am not saying out of frustration or anything. No, it is just to understand that how India as a sporting nature is growing and growing for better. When we went to play, we hardly had any exposure. We used to get exposure of about 2 to 3 events in a year, and that too with a lot of difficulty. But now the players are getting about 10 to 12 exposures in a year. They have been asked, they have personal coaches. They are getting sports science support. We had no sports science support. We had, in fact, sports science was very infants, in an infancy stage. We hardly knew about it. What was the correct diet? What kind of exercise would help your sport? What muscles? Nothing. But I am very happy to say that today, almost all the top players have their own personal team. They have their own strength and conditioner trainer. They have a mental trainer. They have their own personal coach who understands and analyzes his game and discusses time and again. So that bonding now that is happening between the players and the team is wonderful. Now, even I can say that in table tennis today, because the federation actually took a very proactive step of encouraging more and more players of every category to go out and play so that they can get an early exposure. Today, because of that effort, there are about 40 players in various categories, starting from under 12, under 15, under 18, under 21, and the seniors. More than 40 players from India are ranked in the top 100. So that very categorically shows that not only the top men and senior players are good, but there is a feeder lineup coming up to every place. And I can see that the players, these junior players also, they're putting out, and the senior players also. Even our time, senior players also did not have their own team. But today the junior players are aware of sports science support. They are taking help of sports science support, and you can see the physical fitness level, the understanding, the diet, the discipline, etc. is changing, and this is very good for the sport. And if this continues, I'm sure we'll see many more in the top 100. Today, when I went as a coach, I hardly had any opportunity to be with the players whom I'm going. It was just one camp that I was with them, which is not sufficient for me to understand the player and for them to gain that kind of confidence or understanding. But today it's well planned. There are camps around the year. The personal coaches are there who help the players. And all the players, whether they're coming from the government company, whether they're coming from the private or companies, whether they're coming from the public sector companies, they are supported and they're encouraged. I was with Dena Bank at that time. And I was the only person who got selected as a coach in the entire banking industry. And when I was selected and I applied to my bank for official leave to go to them, I was denied the official leave also. This is the status. If this happens today in this, today I'm very happy that all these public sector companies are publicly making their own stars, own Olympians, well known, more known. They're supporting them, not putting them down. And that is the great change that I can see. So there's huge change. Secondly, now coming to players. What do the players must have? The players must have the confidence, number one, of the everybody. Confidence of his own team is going to be there. His family is going to be there. But the support from the government, the administration, it is much, much higher. Today, TOPS, which is under SAI, they're doing a wonderful job. The planning is for not only this Olympics, but they already started planning for the next Olympic, which was not much heard of earlier. Every player who is in the Olympics is supported by TOPS. They are in touch with them. They are monitored, not only supported, but they're monitored, which just now Ian mentioned that in Australia, they are monitored and then the support is given. And that kind of monitoring, I would have loved to have during our time, because that gives you one thing, that somebody is watching you and keeps you alert and keeps you to become better. That this is very important factor, that they are very well monitored. They are counseled, they are asked what they want, and they are given if their demands are justified. So this kind of change that has happened is players. Now, from the players' point of view, the players are becoming better and better and more professional. Their attitude is changing. When we were participating when first time I went to Olympics, I just didn't know what the importance was. Yes, we were wanting to play every match seriously. We were working very hard and all, but it was more of, we never dreamt about the medal or anything. The, but today's players, they have an attitude. They want to perform well. They want to win. They want to do something, and that is the result that we can see, the kind of sacrifice that they are making and the kind of preparation that the preparations are at least 10 times better than what the preparation we were given by the environment. And government support in India has, I would say, from table tennis point of view, I've been talking to many other country players and all. I am very proud to say that our government is doing better and better. Support is coming higher and higher, and that's one of the major factor in which the sport is also growing. I'll give you one example of what Sanjeeva said, that we need to innovate. We need to find out new things. Like we always talk about cricket ko itna paisa milta hai, cricket ko ye milta hai. I think what we need to do is, instead of criticizing cricket, we should learn things from cricket. Cricket has changed to make it interesting. From 5-day cricket to it became one day to it become T20. So all these things, innovations they have got to and change according to the system. They also support their stars. That's two. And thirdly, they got this IPL, and IPL has changed the thing dimension. Not only it has supported the players all over the world, the top players, but also the second line and the third line, the fourth line. The kind of money that they get is very good. In fact, we should try to learn from them rather than criticizing. That's what I would say. And that's what exactly in table tennis, with the help of Table Tennis Federation of India, we got a similar kind of franchisee-based table tennis league to India, which we call it Ultimate Table Tennis. In short, it is UTT. And I'm very happy. If I have to put the benefit of it right now, Sarad was playing in the second round Tiago Apollino of Portugal. In the past history, Sarad has never won against Tiago. Sharad and Tiago were the members of the same team that participated in the last UTT that happened before the COVID. They were staying together, they were practicing together, they were training together, strategizing together. All these things happened together. And I'm sure this probably also could have helped Sharad in understanding Tiago's game and probably play. And the other factor that also helps nowadays is the analytics, sports science analytics. Sharad has mentioned that he could play well against Malong was because he studied his game and he understood what to do and what to expect, and he was more prepared. His attitude was different. He was focusing on his job. He wasn't thinking that he was playing the world's best ever player. He was focusing how to play him, and that focus actually helped him to play so well, which we all proud of. So these are some of the changes that I can put forward, that during our time and this time now, and in the coming time, it's going to only become better. As you know, through media, now each and every player who is playing in Olympics is so well known. There are private players now coming to support the players. Earlier, it was like this, that when you perform well, you are rewarded. But here, like Ian Campbell said, there is a system. The system to produce champion. Sanjeeva also mentioned the same thing. The system to produce champion. That is now in India. There are so many private players now. Even Tops is supporting younger players. They are supporting, and so they are, and even many states are doing so. Gujarat is one of them. I know Haryana is another one. Punjab is other one. Manipur, I believe it is another one. There might be other, but now Orissa has also come into that. But they are actually giving support, financial support, resource support to the players to become champion. It's not that they're giving resources only after they become champion. And that's the greatest change that I can see now. And that is probably one of the reasons that we are seeing. Earlier, we had 2-3 people who would probably win a medal or were potential medal. But today, we have at least about 10 to 15 potential medalists participating in the Olympics, 6 world number ones participating. and in varied games. And that change is that because something has definitely happened in India. And as Ian said, that we have talent. Yes, talent is there everywhere in the world. All we need to tap it, not only tap it, but nurture it, support it, stand by it. It is not going to be always up and up and up. There's going to be up and down. This Olympics, yes, we might be disappointed with some of our athletes, but doesn't mind. Disappointment, yes. Criticism, yes. But we cannot afford to lose our confidence in them, our pride in them, because they are our players and they are our best talent. We have to see that how we can support them and make them better and stronger so that they can come with better performances. And regarding the one of the topic that is about dreams, yes, you must dream. After the first Olympics, where I was awed by it, I dreamt that in one of these major tournament, I should win against the top Chinese players, because in table tennis to win against a Chinese, and that too in an Olympics, is considered almost impossible, because out of 32 medals, they have won 28 medals up till now. They are so far superior. And this dream, I nurtured myself. I helped by my family members. My wife always encouraged me, Mona Lisa Barua Mehta, also from Assam. And my parents always supported me. Sometimes I used to feel that I am dreaming about winning against a top Chinese player in an Olympic or something like this. Am I stupid? Am I overdoing it? But one thing that I got from my family was, doesn't matter if the dreams are not reachable as of date, but keep dreaming and start working. That's what even Sanjeev was said. And I used to keep on dreaming every day in the morning in my prayers. And what happened in 1992 Barcelona? It's not a boast that I'm saying, but I just to touch about the dreaming factor. The dreaming is very important. It is the first step for becoming a champion. In 1992 Olympics, I had the opportunity, the first match I was playing against the Chinese player Lu Lin, who also won a gold medal in doubles in the same Olympics. And I was able to win against him 2-0. That was because I dreamt seriously and I worked seriously. With whatever it is, I can only say there are good days coming for not only Indian table tennis, but Indian sports. As I can see that not only the government, the public sector, the private players, and also the federations and the administration is also now realizing and taking more involved and supporting their players and taking pride in their players' performance. With these few words, once again, thank you everyone. And it is, for me, today is a very learning session, listening to such illustrious speakers. Thank you.
The importance of dreaming. Thank you, sir, for your thoughts. It is heartening to see that there's such a marked improvement, and hopefully we can just go from strength to strength. So everybody, we now have Madam Matsudor Warnongri. She has represented the state multiple times on the national stage, winning many medals. Some of the highlights: she secured the 2nd overall position and 3 medals in the 11th Senior National Archery Championships in New Delhi, 2nd overall position and 3 medals in the 12th Senior National Archery Championships, overall champion and 5 gold medals in the 3rd Sports Festival for Northeastern Region at Nagaland. On the global stage, she has represented the country at the 10th Asian Games, Seoul, South Korea, and in the 5th Asian Cup archery meet in Calcutta in 1989. She is also well known for having a very keen eye in recognizing talent and skill, due to which she has officiated in multiple events both in India and abroad. She is a 2-time AFIRA Award winner, a Roll of Honor recipient, a Rotary Award winner, the recipient of the U Kyang Rongbaha Award, as well as the Vocational Award of the Rotary Club of Shillong. Madam, I invite you now to please speak to us.
Rick, can I come in for a second?
Sure.
Madam Anju Baby George is here. I think she has just joined. She had a problem with the connection.
Right.
Do you like to give her, because she is having a lot of problems? She has a lot of work.
Should we take her immediately?
Can you take her immediately and request?
Yes.
Madam, what?
That will be better. Yeah.
Will do. Okay. So thankfully, Miss George is back with us. So we'll just go to her part of the program. Madam, again, welcome again. Thanks for joining us. Just a very quick intro. Srimati Anju George entered the international arena and made history when she won the bronze medal in the long jump in the 2003 World Championships in Athletics in Paris, France. Among her other distinctions, she's conferred the Arjuna Award of 2003, the Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna in 2004, the Padma Shri Award in 2004, and the BBC Lifetime Achievement Award in 2021. So, Madam, I would like to request you to share some of your thoughts. So, if you may, I would like you to speak on some insights on the topic of strength and weaknesses of Indian athletes. Madam, are you there?
You asked her to unmute.
I'm not able to find her by her name.
Yes, neither am I actually.
Madam Anju, if you're there.
She may have dropped off again.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Well, I think that we go back to plan A. So should we then invite Ma'am Matsidor to speak?
Yes, no.
Okay, Madam, sorry for that. If you don't mind, could you kindly take it away?
Sure. No problem. Just I'm also having a problem. My lights have just gone off. But
Right.
Yeah. Okay. A very good evening to everyone, especially to our president, Rotary Club of Orchid City, Monica Chanda, our secretary, Rotarian Sahil Singla, of course Chiruda, who's the event chair, and of course all the eminent speakers and friends most of who I know quite well. Thank you so much for being part of this, Kamlesh, Sanjeev, and of course our mentors, Annaba, John, and Jan. I've had the opportunity to work with when I was director of sports. So much has been said by the illustrious speakers before me, and I feel that a lot has been covered. But just one area which has already been highlighted to quite a large extent, and in fact, a very important, taken as a very important part of what they have spoken through Bajon and Yan and Sanjeev, and also of course Kamlesh. And so this is actually about sports and education. You must be wondering why I would like to speak this, but it is an area which I feel is very important, and I call this what I'm saying is sports and education, the Olympic route. One would not expect that, yes, sports and education would take us to the Olympics, but I'd like to impress on this in which manner. Now, sports. What do we understand from sports? We are all sports persons. What do we understand from it? It is a form of physical activity, with a set of identified skills combined with techniques, strategies, willpower to gain position in competitive arenas, and through the process of coaching and learning by both the coach and the athlete. We get into sports because we are either introduced to the sport by a mentor, a family, a friend. It is either because we were identified, like Ian had mentioned, we identified through talent scoutings, through clubs, through coaches. We got into sports because we are passionate for physical fitness and general health. We got into sports because we are motivated from the environment around us, like you have in Manipur, which has a sports culture, or Australia. We got into sports because we seek recognition in our peer groups. We get self-esteem benefits from it. We also look at future roles that we can play, when we get into sports, be a coach, be a sports administrator, a judge, etc. We also got into sports because we feel and we found that sport teaches us development. It makes us learn things such as resilience, leadership, accountability, respect, and patience. And that is what we know of sports, and that is what we believe in it, and that's why we got into it in the first place. But we also are part of the education process, as already mentioned very in depth by John, and very relevant. In fact, this also came as part of what we discussed when we were drafting the sports policy for the government. Now, education. We all of us have had some form of education or the other, and we know it as a process of imparting and acquiring knowledge. It starts from the cradle to the grave. and during which time we develop our powers of reasoning, judgment, and we prepare ourselves for an intellectual mature life, through informal, formal, and non-formal processes of education. Now, in the same way, why did we get into education? We got into education for almost the same reason as sports. We got into education because we were introduced to it by our parents or by well-wishers. Either we were identified through schools, colleges, or the tests that we give, or maybe we got into education because we are passionate for mental and intellectual fitness and mental health. Uh, the motivation from the environment around us, again, seeking recognition in peer groups or future roles as leaders in our society in different fields. So, like what Mahatma Gandhi says, live as if you were to die tomorrow, learn as if you were to live forever. So, education, we look for that learning capacity. But why sports and education? Now, do we feel that there is a connect? Well, I feel that there is a connect, and I'm sure all our illustrious speakers before me would also agree to a large extent. Now, the definitions I gave earlier would, give us an understanding that there's a huge connect between sports and education. So, in as to say that while sports teach the students physical stamina, obedience, discipline, determination, etc., education gives, the added and most valued areas in powers of reasoning, mental development, control of mind over matter, etc. So, giving the athlete an opportunity to be exposed to the best in education and sports from a very young age will ensure the build up of the athlete. I would just like to repeat that again. Giving the athlete an opportunity to be exposed to the best in education and sports from a very young age will ensure the build up of the athlete in character, strategic thinking, analytical thinking, like what Kamlesh just mentioned, leadership skills, goal setting, risk taking, and all of these, will stand him or her in good stead as they progress, from one level to the other. These traits, they become more evident as we progress to international levels of competition. Now, the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, runs the Olympic Values Education Program. And in this program, it focuses on 5 pillars of educational values: the joy of effort, fair play, respect for others, pursuit of excellence, balance between body, will, and mind. So I think we are clear that sports and education are very, very closely linked. So in this route to the Olympics, where do we start? Or where did we start, or have we started or not? From what I've heard and what I've also learned from illustrious speakers is that, yes, we have started. And where is that? We started with physical education, which is an integral part of the education process and which aims at improving the human performance through the medium of physical activities, which include acquisition and refinement of motor skills, development and maintenance of fitness for optimal health and well-being, the wellness that Sanjeev Singh was mentioned, the attainment of knowledge and growth of positive attitudes towards physical outcomes. And in short, it means that it aims for development of physically, mentally, socially, and emotionally fit citizens. That is what physical education is about. Um, Now, I am stressing on physical education for a reason, and I will get to it. Physical education develops, students' competence and confidence to take part in a range of physical activities that become a central part of their lives, both in and out of school. It also gives the trainers and the clubs of different sports to be able to scout for the talent at the very start of a child's life and then groom them through the years in the right sport. Jan will very much agree with that with me because we had some programs in the past, and this is what physical education will bring into it. We were talking about Manipur, yes. It's the talk of the country right now. Manipur has its own physical education and sports science department in the Manipur University. It has 5 physical education colleges, the only big physical education colleges in the entire Northeast, and the plethora of sports persons that are the products of these education colleges. Personally, friends, I was exposed to sports and physical activity at a very young age by my mentor, my father, Mr. Solia. Now, through the years, I have had the opportunity to follow my sport, reach master's level in physical education, experienced the Asian Games in '86, officiated in the Olympics as a judge and the Paralympics as a judge, and as well as succeed in my own career. Now, my experience also shows that while athletes are being provided the state-of-the-art facilities, be it equipment, coaching, physiological support, psychological support, a lot more is expected from them to deliver at all levels, and more so at the pinnacle of the sports competition, the Olympics. My take is that this delivery will come only through a very long-term investment into their lives through the education and support system of our country. While we create a fit nation through the physical education activities, we also create a population of athletes to which through a rigorous, well-tuned ecosystem of training at different levels through the years will enable us to pick and further empower the champions, and then we can put them in that Olympic podium. Hence, there are many learnings which I have learned through the years. 1986, as I said, when I took part in the Asian Games in Korea. 1986, in archery, Korea had 10,000 archers. That is the population of athletes that we need to create. We can do this through field education activities, and as I said, through the education and sports system of our countries. This is from me, and I would like to thank you once again, friends, on this very, very important webinar and interaction. And I believe that together with all the inputs and the learnings that we have come to we get today from this webinar, we will be able to take our athletes to that Olympic podium in not very long number of years. Thank you very much, friends, and thank you again, Rotary Club of Orchid City, Shillong.
Thank you, madam, so much for sharing your perspectives. A very well-rounded, large picture view of how sports and education, if correctly understood and integrated, gives us everything we need to lead a valuable and rich life, even outside the spheres of sports and academics. So, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we do not have Madam Anju with us, do we? She hasn't joined us, I don't think. So, with that, I think we will move on to the next ingredient in our show. So here we have a very quick interactive round. So I would like to invite Dr. Rima Dingdo, who has a question for one of our panelists. So madam, please go ahead.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Absolutely, yeah.
A very good evening to all our esteemed panel of speakers. I had the opportunity to hear a few of them earlier also, but my question would be directed to Sir John Karshieng, if he's there. Okay. So my question is actually a takeover of what Ma'am Matsudar had already spoken, and that is with regards to integrating sports culture from a very early age. Right now, during the pandemic, I'm into the academics myself. So right now, who needs to be sensitized more, whether it is about the sports policy or the youth policy, are the parents. Because many a time, I am also a victim of that. When I wanted to pursue something in sports, my father at a very young age told me, like, you can do it as a hobby. He told me, I don't know, career. That was about maybe 20, 25 years ago when I was young. So now, when we are having places and platforms like the digital platform, where even the parents need to be sensitized even more so that they push their children that, yes, you can take this up as a career. And along the way, the policies that the government is coming up and the new opportunities, these sensitizations are important, sir, like you have also already mentioned. And I feel the pandemic time is now where the parents are also at home with their children, so they can also hear to the sensitization. I just want to hear a word from you. What would be your thoughts on that?
Thank you very much. A very good question. We have just, you're absolutely right that in this extraordinary time that we have this pandemic, and there are so many restrictions, especially for the youth. So, I've seen in some other countries where there are specialists who have come up with just like you have your online classes, they have come up with online fitness programs for children, and these are not just generally just a normal fitness program. These are programs for children to identify the talent, to keep them active by specialists, uh, who, from what I've seen, they've been able to monitor them. The programs are such that they get them to monitor along with the parents from their homes. They get to do various kinds of activities. But for this, it is not easy because government has to come in and support such a program, because these are, I'm not too sure what will be the cost, but it will be a great investment. It will be a great investment if the government or, if Rotary can also come up with some, innovative ideas to sponsor such programs, or together with certain schools to put in place this program, which is happening in other countries. Where they are getting a sporting activity online. So they have these very unique, very interesting programs, which will help us, which will help the parents who are probably stuck at home, or the children who are at home, to get active, to see the children getting active. And we know that during this pandemic time, there's a lot of mental stress going on with all the children, they are stuck in their homes. I would sincerely hope that, if the government can also come up with such ideas. I know I've heard that such kind of proposals have gone to our Honorable Minister of Sports, Meghalaya. And I think because this, we will be in this situation for, I don't know, maybe another year or two, because, until everyone gets vaccinated. So it's taking time, and still such time, even if they try to open the schools, we may suddenly get to a lockdown, something may spike, and this and that. So I think we should take opportunity of technology. Mr. Sanjeeva earlier mentioned that we should go. So governments, departments, coaches, parents, should also get into this. I feel that is the way. For now, that is the way to create awareness, and we from the State Olympic will try and create whatever possible. I think we can also initiate a similar kind of a discussion for the general public to be aware of what are the incentives that are now there in the sports policy, so that But like everyone has mentioned, earlier panelists, we need to focus on how to get our children active today during this pandemic time. Take opportunity of technology which is there. So I've just been I had a webinar last week on this, on such a technology, and saw that it was a very, very interesting thing that is happening in Singapore and many other countries. And we are planning to talk to the government and see if they can support such a program. And I'd be happy if Rotary Orchid City Shillong can also support such a program with collaborating with certain schools. Will be great.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Answered your question?
Yes, sir, you did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir. We have another question by Mr. Das Raj joining us via Facebook. So he says, the question I have is, athletes getting opportunity. There are many good players, but don't have the opportunity. And I feel sports being a part of the education system, Sports Authority of India should tie up with individual schools and pick up good players in individual disciplines. Start training them from an early age. We cannot concentrate in sports because we are more thinking about earning and leading our life. So this is more of a point of view, but do we have any panelists who has something to add to this?
Rick?
Yes?
There is one gentleman called Ravi. He's from Oman. He's waiting for his turn to come as a questioner.
Okay. So is he online?
I think so.
He's Mr. Patwa from Silchar.
Sir, our guest from Oman, are you online with us?
Mr. Rabi Patwa from Silchar. You can ask him.
Acha, Mr. Ravi. Ha, sir.
Should I come, or would you like to have Mr. Ravi from Silchar? I am Joydeep Bhattacharjee from Oman. If you give me a chance, then I have a general statement to make. or else you may please proceed with Mr. Ravi and I can come later. Thank you.
Mr. Joydeep, since you're with us already, yeah, please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you very much. And I really want to congratulate the team, organizers, the Rotary Club of Shillong, Orchid City, for having this wonderful conversation. We have learned a lot. And definitely there were some questions arising in me about sport culture in India. I was really very intrigued and rather I can say worried that why India should not have individual performers, because I believe that individual events would require lesser investment, yet we can get achievers like Mary Kom, Hima Das, and we have named many. So in this particular case, I wanted to understand that if there is a possibility of having the education system, the regular education system in the health sector, medical professionals to understand the importance of physical, physiotherapy coming as a most, prioritized stream of study, and also whether we can encourage our medical practitioners and psychiatrists to talk about sports psychology, improvement and grooming of children for the mega events. And the other point that I wanted to make, is it possible to create a system and culture so that we can send out volunteers to international events? Like whether you call about FIFA World Cup, you talk about any events, whether at the national level, state level, or at the international level, even for that matter, Olympics, they need huge number of volunteers. If we can send volunteers from our individual states, we can sponsor 10 of them from 10 different schools. When they come back with a lot of experience in sporting activity, they may not be sportsmen or sportspersons themselves, but they would get encouraged and understand the culture, sports culture, and eventually they will encourage their fellow friends and peers to get involved in sporting activities. I feel that, those who organize events, sport events, they find it difficult to gather volunteers who would be dedicatedly doing it. I'm very sorry to say that when Assam had its national games, many volunteers went there and disappeared with kids.
Okay, right.
So that culture has to
Bhattacharya,
change. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. So basically, your question is about exposure to society in general with sports. So I would like to ask any panelists if they have anything to respond with.
Yeah, I can say something on this regard,
Yes,
that we are, as mentioned, I think by Mr. Kamlesh Mehta earlier, there's a sea change now. There's a paradigm shift in the approach of the government of India, sports now. I recall, when we, few years ago, it was the total budget of the Ministry of Sports was only around 800, was only the total budget of the Ministry of Sports was only around 800 crores. Can you believe it? It was only most of it was for administrative expenses. Today it is across 2,000 crores. The budget of the Ministry of Sports. So various federations are getting their support. But I guess I always dream if there was a situation where we can have a kind of a funding like you have the Manrega, right? Like you have the Manrega, Manrega is based on demand. So when a panchayat or a community demands for a footpath or a water tank and all, there's no question of hesitation. That demand is provided. Similarly, if there can be such a program at the ground level for our sports persons, for our sports associations. It will help to provide all these necessities. So there's a change for the government of India, but I guess we still have a long way to go. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, sir. Very interesting.
I may like to add to this.
Yeah, please go ahead. Sure.
See, what he said was that we need to encourage not with the empire technical aspect or even volunteer aspect. In any of these multifaceted games that happen is normally happens. For example, now Sports Authority of India has also got into Khelo India, where they are like bigger platform to younger players at a very young age, the youth Khelo India. So this is a step in that direction, and that time you see a lot of volunteers, coming and getting involved in sports. Our empires are getting an opportunity to even under regulators in India. Obviously, and everybody a broad budget been given for junior and youth players also, where they can get exposures or selected on basis of their national rankings or their selection as per the selection criteria of each association. So I say that all these things are growing. Yes, and like Mr. John just said, we are moving forward, and yeah, we need to cover a lot of more distance to be a powerhouse in Olympics. We are an emerging sporting nation. We are not a powerhouse in Olympics, which is very fact from the number of medals that we have won up till now.
Right. Thank you, sir. And the webinar has already gone quite over time, but I must allow Sir Ravi to kindly come in with his question.
Thank you so much. My question is to Mr. Kamlesh Mehta. So we were brought up, hearing about the experts of yours. Only 3 table tennis players, basically, we were brought up with. Yourself, Monalisa Borwa, and Indu Puri. It's great that these days we have at least 2 great table tennis players coming up in India. One is coming up and another is in the twilight of his career. I wanted to hear from you regarding the great performance of Achanta Sharat Kamal, especially against Ma Long, winning the 2nd game and then leading in the 3rd game only to lose out. You have already explained why was it possible. So I will not go into that, but I will pick up a question from what you have said, sir. You said that 6 world number 1 are there representing India in the Olympics. But we have seen over the years, and even in this Olympics, that people who are in the top 3 or top 5 also go to the Olympics, perform there and perish because their performance is not up to the mark. If you go for if you look at the performance of Saurabh Chaudhary, we were almost sure that he's definitely going to win a medal. He qualified with the top position in the 10-meter air pistol, only to start off badly in the finals and end up in the 7th rank. Same thing happened with the mixed team events where Saurabh performed brilliantly and Manu also performed well, and they qualified in the 1st position. And again in the finals, although Saurabh performed well, Manu faltered and they ended up being in the 7th position. Deepika, we know that for at least last 3 Olympics, we have been thinking that she will win a medal. And every Olympic, she has been faltering in the pre-quarters or the quarters. I hope tomorrow she wins the pre-quarters and ultimately she can go on to win the medal. But why is it happening, sir? With with sports like archery and shooting specifically, is it because it is a game of nerves and somehow the Indian players are unable to cope with the tremendous pressure of the media and the public, and they falter in the Olympics, whereas they do well in the World Cups and all? That is my question number 1. And second question, sir, short comment on the Monica Batra personal coach issue, Somadeep Roy and Sanmay Paranjope thing. What is your take on it? Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Ravi. I'll take the first question only. The second question is out of the table. So basically, I would like to talk anything about table tennis. First question. You said why is it that we are expecting medals from from our players and then they are not able to win? Yes, that is I think the major topic is that you dare to dream. Now these people are becoming number one and then they are not. See, it's every match is new. Number one, there have been so many instances, like for example on Biles, 4 times Olympic champion, and she just broke down just before her event, and she said she can't because of mental pressure. Number one. Number two, Kento Momaya, unbeaten in the last 2 years in badminton, unbeaten. Almost 2 years, he's not lost to anybody. Number one, he lost in the very first round of the Olympics. So here I would like to only say one thing, that it is that particular moment how you perform. You are number one, it is because of your past performance. Your number one is not going to help you perform better here. It can only strengthen your belief and maybe your vision. But when it comes to that particular moment and shooting and archery, it is just that particular moment. For example, if you are just throwing you are shooting and little bit of gust of wind comes little more, unfortunately, and it can change. So it is only that moment. So basically it is that particular few seconds. In shooting there is not even few seconds, it is milliseconds. One wrong breath and you're off target. And what is the target difference? 1 or 2. So it is very minuscule, like in Olympics or any other world level, any minuscule error also has very unpredictable results. So it is by doing that, it's not going to get an answer. All we need to do is that you have to strengthen, because at that moment of time, what thought is going to come in the player's mind, we don't know. And that's why we always say mind over matter. And I'm telling you that when we started playing in Olympics, a lot of focus was given on players and their physical fitness. But one thing is that I would like to stress upon all the people who are listening is the mental aspect. Whether he's a sportsman or any field, the mental aspect is going to play a very important role. And that's why we say mind over matter. And that's the reason probably God has kept head up. Yeah, but when we do any other aspect, we focus more on our physical rather than our mental development. But I think we need to change that attitude, and that attitude we can see because now the players at the age of their Saurav is 19 years old. And Olympic pressures, even the top experience like Biles could not take the pressure. Sometimes it just get on you. It is just a moment of that time. Like Manu's machine didn't work, her gun. It all can happen. It's a machine. But that should not disappoint us. What we have to see is that did they work hard? Did they follow a process? Even after doing all the other process, still results don't come many times. And there are many things that we also cannot answer. But yes, one thing is that the shooting, all are very young. We have many years to come. That doesn't mean that we just forget about it. But we'll take the learnings of this and start working hard on this.
I think so. I tend to agree with what Kamlesh is talking about. You know, the pressure of Olympic is totally different than compared to pressure of any other championship. You know, the expectation which gets created because of the nation image at stake, you know, that's a huge pressure. People who have played in the Olympics can only understand what being in the Olympics means. So that's very important for us. And that is where I think so it's important that in India and in all the ecosystem, how are we training the sports psychology has taken a very big role here. And this is what can make a difference between when we talk about champions and winners. You may have winners, but creating champions out of winners is there. The difference is only about that mental edge. And in the Olympics, we have seen today Atanu Das defeating. He's ranked number 35. He defeated the ranked number 3, the Olympic medalist Oh Jun-kyu of Korea. So how it happened? It's all the mindset. It's all how you're performing on that particular day. It's how you're preparing for that particular day. So while we can say that we have lost out because of maybe we are not prepared, our psychological professionals were not up to the mark, but many times that is what makes the difference. And many times it may happen that it's not that you are, but while we can't give an excuse that my equipment is not performed or my equipment is not, that's not the excuse we are giving, but it may malfunction, even in spite of all checkings and all everything. So that may happen. But what is more and more becoming very, very clear is if you talk to all the Olympic legends, is the only thing which matters in such big games is how you are mentally prepared. That is becoming more and more crucial. And that is where I think so going forward for the 24, 28, 30 Olympics, while all other things will definitely be required, but how are you preparing? How do we create psychologists? How do we create sports psychologists who understand? It's not only becoming a psychologist, it's understanding that game at that elite level. That is where I think so that cutting edge technology matters. And I'm sure what Kamlesh has said and what all the other senior people have said in this entire thing, I'm sure taking everybody's inputs, well, there's a gap, and that gap has to be bridged if we really want to win continuously in all the Olympics.
Well, thank you so much, sir. And I do apologize to everyone who could not get a chance to add to this fascinating session. It is an inherent frustration about the way time works in general. But I think that just goes to show how relevant this subject is. And we absolutely look forward to following up with an event along these lines. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this interactive session, which was an initiative of the Rotary Club, Orchid City, Shillong, with the indispensable support of the Meghalaya State Olympic Association. We're very grateful to the time that everyone has taken to be a part of this interaction, our illustrious panel of sporting personalities, especially our guest speakers, Mr. Kamlesh Mehta, Mr. John F. Kharshi, Mr. Ian Campbell, Mr. Nabha Bhattacharjee, Mr. Sanjeeva Kumar Singh, and Srimati Matsudor Warnongri. Unfortunately, Madam Anju George could not address us, but that's something to look forward to, I guess. Thank you. A special thank you to the President and Secretary of the Meghalaya State Olympic Association, as well as all of you who have joined us this evening. My name is Chanchrik Chaudhary, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of this Think session. I hope you please take care of yourself, and hopefully we shall meet each other soon again. I turn it over to Madam Monica in case you have anything to add, or maybe we can adjourn it right here.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
Monica, you are muted. Monica, you are muted. We couldn't hear you. You said something.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Chanchari. You have done really great whole evening. You have done wonderfully. Conducted the program. Thank you, Kamlesh Mehta, for your. For you actually, we are so happy that you join us and you enlighten us for your knowledge. Thank you all. Thank you, Professor Singh here. Thank you, Matsudor. Thank you, Mr. Nabha Bhattacharjee. All the great speakers here. I think they left. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Stay
night.
safe.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Chiru, congratulations to Chancharik. He has done a great job.
Monica, congratulations.
Chancharik, I'm so proud of you. Chancharik, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm severely underprepared.
No, you're not.
I beg to differ, Chancharik. I beg to differ. You did absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. Your perception is so good. And you know, your analysis was so good. Your response was excellent. I'm really proud of you.
Thanks, ma'am. I didn't spoil your event.